The Cheating Death Podcast is a comedy podcast that provides objective information about anything and everything under the sun. We cover a wide range of topics because we have a wide range of interests. We are not left, we are not right, we are not political, nor religious. That said, dear listener, stay tuned. Prepare for a scare. Listener discretion is advised. On today's episode of the Cheating Death Podcast, we once again travel the land to provide you with a bit of a first-person view of crazy, mysterious, haunted, paranormal, and downright spooky insane asylums and landmarks on this cross-global trip. Today, we visit Hamilton, Ontario's Century Manor, one of the most absolutely horrific places that harbored many individuals incapable of dwelling within their own minds without being tortured both inside and out. We provide you with detail about how this lovely facility received its renown. We provide you with an all-new Annihilation Announcement, an all-new joke of the episode, our top 5 video games that include Asylums, and of course, dear listeners, much more. So you know what to do. Grab yourself a coffee, put your feet up, and let us tell you how you can cheat death. This is your news anchor, the Cleric of Chaos, and this is your Annihilation Announcement. We take into consideration the overall growing number of people in whom are suffering and struggling throughout their days, trying to identify exactly what to do to move to the next point. Although we no longer harbor the institutions nor the infrastructure to properly care for these individuals, everyone is essentially left to figure out their own paths after being given emergency medication and enough time to just go about their ways. We, as a society here in North America, need to do better. We need to fight for our people, and even if they are broken, we must band together and bandage them. This has been your news anchor, the Cleric of Chaos, and this has been your Annihilation Announcement. Willkommen, meine Freunde. Guten Morgen, guten Tag und eine gute Nacht. Ist deine Reisender und deine Ausländer und deine Allesfresser, deine Schauspieler, deine Vernichter. Bist du traurig, meine Freunde? Komm mit mir. On today's episode of the Cheating Death Podcast, dear listeners, we are going to take a little bit of a trip up north from the United States of America. We're going to cross the border into Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, a city of approximately 500,000 people, circa the Census of Data survey in 2024. We are referring to the Hamilton Haunted Asylum, formerly known as the Century Manor Asylum. It was noted that they opened their doors on the 17th of March, 1876. 10 men, 20 women were transferred from the Toronto Asylum, which still is located on Queen Street West. Initially, this facility, as most facilities that deal with the mentally despondent, this facility was initially supposed to be a treatment facility and a rehab for those in whom had severe alcoholic impediments. Yes, dear listeners, even back in the 1800s, alcohol was as big a problem as it is today. Numerous people falling by the wayside and letting very, very crudely brewed alcohol and significant consumption of which impact their brains, their lives, their very existences. It is a very unique time in Hamilton, Ontario in 1876. It is to be noted that the location of this asylum was specifically chosen for its beauty. Yes, overlooking the Niagara Escarpment and overlooking... It's noted that West Hamilton was in broad view of this location as well. It was in presence of a very large city, and the provincial government, upon near completion of the first asylum buildings, decided there was a greater need for accommodation of those deemed to be insane, in spite of numerous protests and numerous requests to reconsider. It was unfortunately to be that by the 17th anniversary of the asylum that 49 of the 211 patients admitted were still there. In the early years, you would find yourself confused as to why there were farmers who were wandering the grounds, individuals who looked like they had nothing more wrong with them than a little bit of exhaustion. Maybe they needed a little bit of a break from the back-breaking labor that was agriculture back in the 1800s, and so they decided to cool it off with a little bit of moonshine, had themselves a little bit too much, and boy howdy, you landed yourselves in a crazy Canuck insane asylum. Congratulations, Farmer Joe. You have now reached crucial level. For it is within the walls that the early pioneers in the early days of psychiatry, as most will know through medical experience in university and college, if this is something that you have partaken interest in, you will know very well that much like physiological medicine back in the 1800s, everything was rudimentary. Everything was merely hypothesized. Nothing had been conclusively proven and nothing had been conclusively defined as of these times, so there was a lot of experimentation, a lot of lobotomies, frontal lobe deconstruction, a lot of torture, using water, using light, and using the very elements of each room. Patients would come in with different varying conditions, but at Century Manor it was imperative that each patient follow a very similar structure and fall in line in order to ensure that the staff was able to comfortably and efficiently do their jobs. Now, where Century Manor stands today, it is a historical land and a beautiful, beautiful grazing area that would be fitting of very many cows. It is considered a Canadian and a provincial historical landmark, and there are places where you can go and you can acquire tours of the facility. You just have to be sure that you follow all of the legal specifications. Now, common practice during the early years of psychiatric treatment is barbaric, absolutely chaotic, and very, very horrific treatment, locking people in cages, putting them in boxes, making it so that if somebody was to even say one thing the wrong way, that would be the last light that they would see for a while. For you see, in Century Manor, over the course of 100 years, from 1876 all the way through to the 1900s, it was pretty clear that the conditions were deteriorating, the staff was leaving, and no one was coming to replace them. So with that, adding more patients, having less staff, it became a breeding ground for psychopathy at the absolute worst levels. The Hippocratic Oath no longer had meaning. It was an absolute atrocity and travesty that affected and impacted many hundreds of individuals, completely destroyed and decimated by time, by mental health issues, and by everything that had come before. back in the early 80s, Century Manor had become a museum that is now open for public view and visitation. Of course, they are not going to include any of the information that is going to be direct and concise and transparent about the conditions that patients at Century Manor faced. But at the end of the day, do we really expect anything more? Thank you for tuning in today. Remember, there is going to be a mailbag portion of the episode, so if you have any questions, comments, feedback, topics you'd like to see, shout-outs that you want to give, happy birthday, anniversary that you want read on the air, email us at thecheatingdeathpodcast@gmail.com. Take care of yourselves, and have a beautiful day. At the top of the program, we promised you a list of our top 5 favorite asylums in video games and video game referencing asylums. So, without further ado, let's not get crazy. Let's dive right in. Coming in at number 5, we have Resident Evil 4. Coming in at number 4, we have The Evil Within 2. Coming in at number 3, of course, we have the original Silent Hill. Coming in at number 2 is The Evil Within 1. And coming in at number 1 is Silent Hill 2. What are your top 5 favorite asylums in video games? Email us at thecheatingdeathpodcast@gmail.com. Today's joke has been brought to you by the Cleric of Chaos. My boss told me in the early afternoon to have a good day, so I went home. Southern Ontario, Canada, is one of the most bizarre and fascinating places in the entire country, not specifically because of the wide amounts of individuals from different cultures and the wide amounts of different topographical areas and geological formations. No, it is predominantly due to the vast amount of beautiful architecture, landscapes, and cultural historical landmarks that make this area what it is. Century Manor is one of a beautiful list of horrifying memories wrapped up in a beautiful Victorian home. The Asylum may be gone, but the souls in whom found their torture and their permanence at this location still dwell within. Take care of yourselves and each other. The Cheating Death Podcast has been brought to you by Nach dem Leben, CRDVC, Chaos Realm Records, Cleric of Chaos, and where you may find all major podcasts on each and every single platform. If you would like to support the program, you may do so with the links in the episode's description, and we want to thank our good friend Hunter Collins, good friend Ransom, and of course, our lovely friend Carol for supporting both the Buy Me a Coffee Fund and the Injury Support Fund. If you'd like to follow the program, you may do so at twitter.com/WeLGDeath and twitter.com/Cleric of Chaos, and like, share, and subscribe to our YouTubes at youtube.com/Cleric of Chaos and youtube.com/WeLGDeath. If you or anyone you know is experiencing psychiatric duress, please contact the telephone numbers listed in the podcast and episode's description. And if you are experiencing any type of harassment, despair, or in need of emergency services, there are also numbers there as well. If you are looking at adopting a playful puppy or a cute kitten, please visit your local animal adoption rescue center. Remember, dear listeners, life, as we say every episode, is not a one-way street. It is not an easily identifiable task to accomplish. Be kind to yourself. Take care of yourselves. And remember, we're pulling for you. We're all in this together.